Every NFL team has a head coach. Let's grade the new hires. Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and in 2024, there will be 8 new head coaches. Let's talk about each one. And as always, if you like sports content with a little other stuff sprinkled in here and there, do that. We'll start with the Washington Commanders, who I think had a bit of an odd hire, one of the oddest hires of these 8. They hired Dan Quinn, who was the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. He's 53 years old, but he does have 20 years of NFL experience. However, this next bit, it could be a blessing or a curse. He's worked with 8 NFL organizations. So on one hand, I can see that being a positive. All right. He's seen a lot of things. He's seen how, literally 25% of the NFL runs an organization. And so he has that experience. But also, if you're bouncing around that much, are you bringing, this is going to sound harsh, but are you bringing value to organizations? If you've been with 25% of the league, why did 25% of the league not keep you around? And I know some of it may have been his decision and whatnot, but this was a guy that was in Seattle, and he had the benefit of coaching a really good defense, a good set of players. And so I think it was more about the players than Dan Quinn. So I am not the biggest Dan Quinn guy, but overall, I'm not terribly impressed with this hire. When they had Ron Rivera at the helm last year, I don't know what Dan Quinn brings that isn't Ron Rivera-esque. This isn't very different than Ron Rivera in terms of probably his philosophy of the game and how he runs things. So overall, I give the Dan Quinn hire a D+. I don't think it was the best thing this organization could have done. These are also in no particular order, so we will go to the Los Angeles Chargers next with Jim Harbaugh, who is 60 years old, and he has 5 years of NFL coaching experience, although we know he has a lot of time playing in the NFL and a lot of time coaching at the collegiate level. In 2011, he did win Coach of the Year with the San Francisco 49ers. He just won the college football playoff with Michigan, and the Chargers certainly have the talent already there at his disposal. And I think, look, I don't like the guy. All right. I'm not a Jim Harbaugh guy. I'm a Seahawks guy. And so anything that eats, sleeps, and breathes 49ers for any period of time is automatically going to be raising some suspicion with me. And I didn't care for how the whole Michigan sign stealing ordeal went, where he says, I have no idea what's going on. And then, McCarthy comes forward and says, well, everybody knew this was happening. You have to do it to keep up. And it's just I think there's something a little slimy about Jim Harbaugh. It's easy for me to say from behind a computer screen. But I'm not totally impressed with him. However, I do think that he is able to walk away from that drama at Michigan, which is good for him. We know the Harbaughs as brothers have a great legacy when it comes to coaching and coaching success. So given that he's walking onto a team that just underperformed last year and definitely has the pieces in place, I think this is a good hire, a borderline fantastic hire. I give it an A. Mike McDonald gets hired as the Seahawks head coach, replacing Pete Carroll, and I, as a Seahawks fan, am going to speak my mind. And this is going to be met probably with some backlash, and a lot of people are going to tell me I'm wrong, and that's totally fine. That's what this video is all about, to have that discourse. So he is 36, one of the younger hires. He has 9 years of NFL experience, and I believe he's only had experience under John Harbaugh. I think he was with the Ravens for all 9 of those years. So he actually worked with both Harbaughs. He was with the Ravens for, I want to say, 6 years, and then he left and went to Michigan University to be the defensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh, kind of turned that defense around that was struggling, and then he went back to Baltimore the last 2 years, I want to say is about the timeline. This is a defensive-minded guy, which when we think about what Seattle needs, okay, and based on 2023's performance, they need help defensively. Okay, this has been an organization that has prided themselves in their defense, like Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner comes back to play. Cam Chancellor, Brandon Brett. This has been a defensive-minded team for years, and I'm going to say get over it. We lost that in 2023. However, I don't think our offense, the Seahawks offense, has been explosive. Even with Russell Wilson, it wasn't it was solid. It got the job done. But I don't think the Seahawks offense keeps pace with what the NFL is doing offensively anymore. We're throwing the ball a ton. And so what why I gave this a B is, does Seattle need a defensive-minded guy running the program? And I'm not saying he's just defensive-minded, right? In order to be a good defensive mind, you have to understand how offenses work. I get that it goes both ways. But my worry is the fact that the emphasis is again on the defense, and we struggle to score points. That's my only concern. Now, if he can get a group around him, again, Shane Waldron just left, the offensive coordinator for Seattle, and I don't know if they filled that position or not. I should know, but again, it's February, all right? I can take a little bit of a break from football. If he can fill the shoes around him with guys who can put up points, and he can lead everyone with his youth, with his I'm guessing his energy and his joy of the game, then I think this is a great hire. But I'm worried that we're going to be stuck on defense for yet another year, and we're going to score 17 to 20 points a game. So if we can put points up, this is an A hire, but right now I'm going to temper those expectations, and I'm going to give it a B. Jared Mayo is the head coach of the New England Patriots. He is 37 years old, and he has 5 years NFL experience coaching. Now, here's the deal. He has 13 total years in the NFL under Bill Belichick. So that is as a player and as a coach. And so I've left a quote here that I think is kind of the question with this hire. Ultimately, I've given it a B because I think this is a good hire. I think this is a fine hire, and I think this is a hire that was expected from what I've read, okay? But my question is he taking over or is he creating new? A guy who's been under the leadership of a Hall of Fame coach, one of the best coaches of all time, in Bill Belichick, is he going to be living in Bill Belichick's shadow, or is he going to be expressing a new identity for the Patriots? And I don't know the answer to that question. So again, I've tempered my expectations and I've given it a B. I think he would be better off for himself, for the team, for the future of the Patriots if they can take things from Bill Belichick that were successful, but create new things and become a new organization. And if they can do that, I think this is a good hire. But if he is just living in the shadows of Bill Belichick, I am concerned about that, and I am concerned that maybe they should have brought in someone totally new who could have created new. Time will tell. We'll give it a B. One of the biggest shocks of this offseason was Mike Vrabel getting fired, getting let go, getting released, whatever you want to call it. And the Titans have chose Brian Callahan to replace him. 39 years old, 14 years of NFL experience, but his 14 years of NFL experience has been utterly bizarre. I'm going to throw up the Wikipedia article that breaks down his NFL experience, but he's been offensive assistant, he's been quarterbacks coach, he's been quality control. It just doesn't feel like he's ever had a sizable and, dare I say, important role. And again, I'm not saying this as a judgment. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. He could be a fantastic leader and a fantastic piece of the puzzle. But if I'm just looking at it at face value, those are weird roles for someone to have before coming into a head coaching position. Now, he was the offensive coordinator for the Bengals, but he did not call any of the plays. Zach Taylor was calling all the plays. The head coach was. So I'm sure that Brian Callahan had a role in creating the offense and coming up with personnel and scheme, but it just feels bizarre to me. It just feels like he's had all these kind of unimportant, unassuming roles, and now he's getting put in the biggest role that an organization has with head coach. So I'm sure he'll prove me wrong. I'm sure he'll be fantastic. He's got a lot of young talent and a lot of veterans on that team, so it's a good balance. But right now, I'm giving this hire a D-. Raheem Morris is hired as the Falcons head coach after interviewing Bill Belichick, and it is rumored that Bill Belichick turned it down. Raheem Morris is 47 years old. He has 22 years of NFL experience. He has 2 Super Bowl wins, one with Tampa Bay and one with the Rams. He did coach Atlanta. He was the interim head coach for the Atlanta Falcons in 2020. And I think at the end of the day, it's probably better for Raheem Morris to take over this team. I think Belichick was able to build a dynasty and take the players he wanted to get that to happen, and now he's going to walk in with, a Desmond Ridder, a Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, a Drake London, guys who have been there for a few years for some of them, besides Robinson. But I just think that Raheem Morris understands this organization, having been here before. He kind of knows the identity of this organization, but he has had success at 2 other organizations, big-time success, Super Bowl success at 2 other organizations. And so he can bring some new things into this organization and kind of freshen it up. up. He also, I think, is very well connected. So if he wants to go out and get an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, got quarterbacks coach, wide receiver coach, I think he's going to have the connections to be able to do that. So overall, I think because of his experience, because of his success, and because of how well connected he is, I give this hire an A. Don't shoot the messenger here. Dave Canales, 42 years old, 14 years coaching experience, and I'm going to be positive. I've been negative. I tend to be negative in this presentation so far, but I'm going to take a positive spin here. This guy is QB minded. Okay. He worked with Seattle and Russell Wilson from 2010 to 2020. That's a long time. He was there for what could have been a potential dynasty had things not fallen apart on the 2-yard line of the Super Bowl. Okay. I think that being in the situation, working with Russell Wilson, who was a top tier quarterback in Seattle, even though he didn't get to showcase it very much because of the offensive schemes they're running with Marshawn Lynch and being a run first team, he goes to Tampa Bay then and resurrects Baker Mayfield's career. And that may be an exaggeration, but Baker Mayfield had fallen off. I think he had been written off. And Dave Canales comes in, the offensive coordinator of Tampa Bay, and takes them to the playoffs and makes Baker Mayfield a top 15 quarterback again. And I know he had weapons, and I know he was, set up with a lot of leadership around him, so that always helps. But I think this is a perfect fit for the Carolina Panthers because of Bryce Young. Take a guy that I believe has talent. I believe is a skilled passer, and I know he didn't show that this year at all. In fact, my friends made fun of me, right? You actually believe that Bryce Young is a good quarterback? I still do. All right. And I don't think that Frank Reich, the head coach of the Panthers this year, was the guy to guide Bryce Young and to nurture Bryce Young. But Dave Canales, I think, is the perfect guy to come in and say, okay, Bryce Young, we need to get you some weapons first and foremost. So I think that's what they'll do first. We need to surround you with an offensive line that can protect. Dave Canales is going to set this offense up to be a safety net. Okay, a foundation where the pillar can be Bryce Young. And that's what this organization, I believe, needs, and that's what they were neglecting last year. So I give this Dave Canales hire, based on his experience with quarterbacks, with veteran quarterbacks, an A. I know it's another A rating, but I will explain why. Antonio Pierce, 45 years old, only 2 years of NFL experience, both with the Raiders. He took over in the middle of the season, so this one, is kind of thrown on the end here. You may want to count this in the 8 hires. You may not. He went 5-4, all right? And so you may look at that and say, why did he get the job if he goes 5-4? Well, all 4 of those losses were to playoff teams. Okay, he lost to Miami, he lost to the Chiefs, and he beat the Chiefs. And I can't remember offhand. I'll put it up here. The other teams that he lost to. So he won the games he was supposed to win, including an absolute annihilation of the Los Angeles Chargers, 60-some to 20-something. Okay, so the main thing, the biggest piece of why I'm giving this an A is I'm acknowledging that I don't know what's going on in the organization, but when your leader, defensive leader, and potentially just leader of this team, your face of your organization, and Max Crosby, and maybe that's an exaggeration, but I think he's one of the faces of this organization. When he comes forward and says, I will request a trade if Antonio Pierce is not hired, that's all I need to know, right? And I think for a player of Max Crosby's status to speak out to the media and to say, if you don't do what is right in this situation, okay, and I'm assuming he's speaking for the team or a majority of the Raiders players, if you don't do what's right and hire Antonio Pierce, I'm gone, all right? And that's all I need to know that this was a good hire. He wouldn't say that if Antonio Pierce was meh, right? If Antonio Pierce was just okay, Max Crosby wouldn't say that. So I think this is a great hire because if the players are bought into the head coach, they're going to be bought into the game. I believe that. So this gets an A from me. Thank you guys for coming by. As always, you can drop a comment and let me know where you agree or where you disagree with these hires. Again, these are all speculative. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the quality of these men as coaches or even humans, but I'm still going to make the content anyway. So this is not to be judgmental in any fashion. It's just my take on the situations and on the hiring. So as always, thank you guys for coming by, and we'll see you next time.